from the News Channel 5 Network. This is Que Pasa Nashville.
Bienvenidos and welcome to Que Pasa Nashville. My name is Cristina Allen and thank you for joining us. As you know, quarterly we get to do a global show, and today I have two guests from the Islamic Center of Nashville. We have Rashed Fakhruddin, who's the president of the Islamic Center of Nashville, and we have Rashmi Sharif, who's an executive board member. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you.
So, Rashed, you've been in Nashville how long?
44 years.
44 years. So this is your hometown.
Yes.
And as president of the Islamic Center of Nashville, which is located right there on 12th Avenue South, you were in the first mosque here.
Yeah, one of the first in Tennessee.
In Tennessee.
Not the first, but one of the first.
And so how have you grown in an area that's been transformed throughout these last couple of years, more so of being in the heart of the community and growing with members as well?
Yeah. Well, it's been a great experience. Of course, we started out when we first came in 1979 in the area 12 South. It was considered a dangerous neighborhood. One of the rationales, and my father and a few uncles and a lady were involved with founding the mosque. One of the rationales of picking 12 South was that it was close to where the people lived, and especially the student population of Nashville at that time. And so they chose that place, and it's been a blessing over the, especially the last 10 years. It's just boomed that area.
It has boomed, and it's very, very nice. Now, Rashmi, you just moved here. How long have you been in Nashville?
I've been in Nashville for 14 months
14 months. And what brought you to Nashville?
Well, I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Roll Tide.
Okay.
And I went to the University of Alabama, got my MBA there, and was recruited by Cigna Health Spring on campus for a position with their rotational development program.
Well, that's great. So, of course, welcome to Nashville. So,
Thank you.
what's the difference you see from Tuscaloosa? Is that your hometown?
Yes.
To Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, Tuscaloosa is a college town. It's a very transient kind of town in the sense that Muslims come and go. They get their PhDs for 7 years, and then they leave. So I grew up saying goodbye. What I see in Nashville is it's a very vibrant, established community. People come here and they stay here.
They
and
want to stay.
They want to stay here, and they raise their families here. So that's been exciting for me to see.
And appealing as well? You don't see yourself?
Very attractive.
That's great. So with the growth, so you got involved immediately with the Islamic Center of Nashville. Is that where you first reached out? As I did when I moved here, I reached out to my church.
Absolutely. I came here, I didn't know anybody, was really lonely and just bored, and Ramadan happened a month after I had come last year. So I went to the mosque, the ICN, every single night, and I tell you what, you break bread with people, you become friends real quick.
That is great. And I have broken bread with Rashid and Rashid, and so have a friendship with him. So again, thank you for being on. So a little bit of the history of the Islamic Center, as we were talking earlier, because I find it very fascinating that Cat Stevens, who great composer and musician, who became a Muslim, donated funds to help launch. He was here in Nashville, what musicians do, and was able to donate to the mosque.
Yeah.
How significant a role does he play now?
It's part of, the foundation of our organization is Cat Stevens. And it's very befitting because we're in the heart of Music City, USA. So to have one of the first mosques help founded, or at least through donation, through an icon such as Cat Stevens.
And what does he go by now?
Yusuf Islam.
Yeah, Yusuf, I
and
remember.
we all know the peace train, and that's what Islam stands for, peace. And so to have that as our foundation is amazing, and it's an honor for us as Muslims.
Do most people know that?
We share that history with anyone who comes to the mosque, but I don't know how many people, even worldwide, even know that. It was a very it was a humbling experience. He was a very modest, nice, gentle guy. My father shares the story all the time. Very pleasant guy, and he just did it as almost like a hidden act of kindness. He's never,
But look what he's done.
Yeah.
So as a young child in Nashville, when the mosque got started, you grew up there.
Yes.
You are from Nashville. Went to Hillsborough High School.
Right.
And now an engineer. And so, as president, what is the biggest challenges you have?
Well, we have quite a bit of, there are challenges, probably like every other places of worship. First is trying to work with gaining more membership and reaching out and serving the Muslim community. We're responsible for providing religious worship services and youth programs. Probably youth is probably our biggest challenge. And then with the general public, building stronger relationships. I don't want to say that's a challenge. That's something that's actually, it's awesome because we're situated in, of course, 12 South, which is a great neighborhood, great individuals, families that live in that area, and just Nashville as a whole has been very welcoming. So we've had a great relationship in building bridges, building a stronger relationship, inviting people to our mosque to set foot, and that goes on every day.
I've noticed with your marquee,
Yeah.
you have Red Cross blood drives,
Right.
you have Haiti yard sales,
Yeah.
you have open houses, you have
Right.
private tours.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that outreach, because you don't really see that
Yeah.
from, I don't know if the other mosques are doing that, but you're
Yeah.
very outgoing as a mosque to welcome your neighbors, just to
Yeah.
understand. And how has that served you?
Oh, it's been great. I think, of course, we live in a time where there are a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings about Islam and Muslims. And we can't just sit still and say, okay, people are going to understand us without getting to meet us and know us. So it takes effort on our part, but more than that, it's just as neighbors. Islam really emphasizes the relationship with your neighbors. Even the best of you, Muhammad says, are those who are best to their neighbors. And there was a question about how can you know if you're doing good or if you're doing wrong. Muhammad said, if your neighbors say you're doing good, you're doing good. If they say you're doing wrong, you're doing wrong. So it's very important to build these relationships, and I think it works hand in hand with the city's mission to create a more welcoming city. On our part, as a faith-based organization, we have to do our part. And we're all open book, and we hear things in the news about people are afraid of Islam and Muslims, and it's not prevalent. We know on a grassroots level people are very open and welcoming, but there's that perception. So we welcome every group, every visitor. In fact, on a weekly basis, we have a group from, say, Belmont, Vanderbilt, from local high schools, middle schools, churches, and sometimes they call on us, sometimes we are very proactive as reaching out to others. It's sort of a mutual.
But that served you well,
Yeah.
because you're demystifying the fear that some people
Yeah,
have.
right.
And, Rashmi, you wear the did I say that correctly?
Hijab.
And very colorful, very beautiful,
Thank
but
you.
there's not many religions where women wear the religion. I mean, I might wear a cross, and you might know I'm Christian, but you don't see a lot of it. When someone sees you, they know right away you're Muslim. That's a heavy thing to do, because no other religion has that. How does that? Is that a positive reaction, or does it matter anymore? Do you find it very appealing? How do you interact as much when people see that scarf and maybe pull back?
I don't think anyone has ever pulled back
Good.
from me. I don't feel that at all. And, every woman's reasons for wearing the headscarf are as unique as the woman herself. I was paragliding over the Andes, the foothills of the Andes, and I was just so grateful to God, and I didn't wear the headscarf at the time, and I was like, I need to demonstrate my gratefulness in some way. So that was when I decided to start donning the headscarf. But I've had very positive reactions to it. On game days, I wear my houndstooth headscarf, and I get on the Jumbotron, and
And
I've
people
had
love
fun
that,
with
I'm
it.
sure,
Yeah.
right? Because they're just like you. We're all the same and stuff. And that was what you're doing. You're demystifying and more outgoing, very much so. As you do your programming as an executive member of the Islamic Center of Nashville, as president, once again, you have a mutual relationship and partnerships. Tell me about the I think the passion games that I've noted on some of your stuff. What exactly is that?
It's actually it started out, I believe, on the West Coast a few years ago. And it's an attempt to just create more awareness of compassion and more acts of compassion on a city level. So now it's become a nationwide event where every city is challenging each other to see which city can be the most compassionate. Of course, last year Nashville was voted the second most compassionate
But what
city.
does that mean? It's an International Day of Peace.
It
coincides?
it falls from 9/11 through 9/21, which it ends off at 9/21, which is the International Day of Peace. And so during those 10 days, especially spearheaded by the Metro Human Relations Commission, they want the whole city to highlight acts that they're already doing that reflect compassion, and to do more and challenge each other. And this will only make our city better. And
Give me some
stronger.
examples of the act of compassion.
Like, I know there are several things that we're involved with at the Islamic Center. There's a fast-a-thon, and this is targeted for youth, middle-aged students. And what happens, and will be hosted at the Islamic Center of Nashville, and partially in partnership with some of the churches, and they're trying to get some of the Jewish groups together.
So you have like some of the Baptists, the Christian, the synagogues and stuff like that, everyone coming together.
Coming together and fasting that day, or whatever they can do.
Yes.
And then in lieu of the food, they would have, the money they would have spent for buying food or lunch, they bring that money or food items to that event at 5:30 on September 13th. And then what happens, all that is donated typically to the Second Harvest Food Bank, and then each faith representative will share about the meaning of fasting, which we know, especially in the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, there's that whole concept of fasting and tradition.
So there's a lot of familiarity and similarity amongst everyone.
And then they'll talk about compassion. They'll tie it to compassion as well.
Wow, and that's a great lesson for the children as well.
Oh, yeah.
So what about the spiritual crawl?
Spiritual crawl, that's something, just trying to come up with some catchy title.
I like it.
What we did, and just to share a little background, last spring we helped organize what we call a Places of Worship tour for the students in high school during their intercession break. So it was an optional, anyone could sign up. And during that time, it was amazing. We got to, went to several churches, a Buddhist temple, and partnered and created relationships. So number one, too, is said, hey, this is an idea. Let's see, would you like to partner? We ended up getting a Catholic church, Presbyterian, Disciples of Christ, a Methodist, and several different denominations. And then we had a Hindu temple, a Buddhist Dharma Center, Islamic Center of Nashville, and the Jewish synagogue.
So you were able to go with your group to any of those and get a little bit of their spiritual understanding?
Yeah, they would typically hear a presentation from their spiritual leader, and just to feel what it was like to step in to another place of worship. Of course, some of them, it overlapped with their normal place of worship, but
you got
had
to
about
see
50
and feel
students,
and see it.
And we rented a bus and had them go around.
Okay,
And then
I'm
we
gonna
had
sign
the
up my kids. Yeah, that's a good
Interfaith
one.
Alliance of Vanderbilt started out that session in the morning.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back with Rashid Fakhruddin, who is the president of the Islamic Center of Nashville, and Rashmi Sharif, who is also on the executive committee, and talk more about what the Islamic Centers of Nashville is doing, the growth of the Muslim community here in Middle Tennessee, and the beauty they bring to our city. Gracias.